The Atlantic, a vast, indifferent canvas. Beneath its unforgiving surface, a silent, deadly war was brewing. Nazi U-boats, predators of the deep, emerged to carve a brutal path across vital shipping lanes. For Britain and the Allied cause, these supply convoys were the very lifelines of survival itself. Hitler's dreaded wolfpacks, a formidable force, held a terrifying technological and tactical advantage. Against this unseen terror, Allied defenses were initially stretched thin, ill-equipped, and vulnerable. Over 3,500 ships would be dragged beneath the waves, their precious cargo and crews lost forever. Thousands of brave merchant seamen and naval personnel perished in the freezing, unforgiving Atlantic waters. The relentless U-boat campaign choked Allied supply lines, threatening to cripple the entire war effort. Across the Allied nations, the specter of starvation and rationing loomed large, challenging civilian morale. How then did the Allies turn the tide against such a devastating, existential threat to their survival? This was no mere skirmish. The Battle of the Atlantic decided the fate of the entire global conflict. It was a brutal, protracted struggle for control of the seas, a battle waged in absolute darkness. From the brink of defeat, the Allied navies forged a path to victory through innovation and sheer will. This is the epic story of how the Atlantic was won, securing ultimate victory for the free world. Europe held its breath. As Hitler's war machine ignited, Britain knew its lifelines across the Atlantic were now gravely threatened. September 3rd, 1939. Britain declared war, plunging the world into another global conflict. The seas would soon become a battleground. Hours after war began, U-30 sank the unarmed SS Athenia. This brutal act shattered any illusions of a civilized war. The sinking sent shockwaves worldwide. It signaled the U-boat's ruthless intent, targeting vital civilian transport. Germany's U-boat fleet, though small, was a potent commerce raider. Its mission: strangle Britain's essential supply lines. Island nation Britain depended on these vital sea lanes. Food, fuel, and raw materials were all imported, a critical weakness. Weeks later, U-47 dared the impossible. It infiltrated Scapa Flow, Britain's sacred naval base, a strategic masterpiece. Its torpedoes found their mark. The battleship HMS Royal Oak sank, a devastating blow to British naval pride and security. Admiral Carl Dönitz, mastermind of the U-boat force, understood their true potential. He envisioned a naval war unlike any before. Britain swiftly reintroduced the convoy system. Groups of merchant ships, guarded by warships, aimed to deter attacks. Early anti-submarine warfare was primitive. Sonar was rudimentary, and escorts were few, often lacking endurance. For months, the war at sea simmered. U-boats scored isolated kills, but the full fury had not yet been unleashed. May 1940. Germany's blitzkrieg stunned the world, sweeping through France with unprecedented speed. Allied defenses crumbled. The miraculous escape at Dunkirk saved an army, but continental Europe was lost. Britain now stood alone against Nazi power. France's fall provided Germany invaluable Atlantic U-boat bases. This strategic shift drastically shortened transit times to the convoy routes. From Brest and Lorient, U-boats now accessed the rich hunting grounds of the North Atlantic more easily, unleashing their terror. With improved access and fewer escorts, the first happy time began. U-boat successes soared, devastating Allied shipping. Legendary U-boat aces, like Günther Prien, honed their deadly skills. Their experience amplified the destruction. Often, lone U-boats would stalk and sink merchantmen, picking off stragglers or attacking poorly defended convoys. Convoys, once thought safer, were now vulnerable. The U-boats' relentless attacks left a trail of burning wrecks. Dönitz perfected the wolfpack tactic. Coordinated groups of U-boats would overwhelm convoys with simultaneous attacks. Intercepting convoy radio signals, U-boats were vectored to their prey. The hunt became a coordinated, deadly ballet. Operating on the surface at night, U-boats became invisible. They exploited the darkness, turning convoys into shooting galleries. Convoy SC-7 endured a night of the long knives. A wolfpack sank 20 ships in 2 brutal days. Immediately following, convoy HX-79 faced a similar fate. U-boats inflicted further catastrophic losses, pushing Britain to the brink. As convoys crossed the Atlantic, they entered the dreaded Mid-Atlantic Gap, a vast area without vital air support. Here, far from land-based aircraft, U-boats hunted with impunity. It was their sanctuary, a killing field for Allied ships. Ship losses mounted to catastrophic levels. Britain's very survival depended on overcoming this relentless submarine onslaught. With food and supplies dwindling, Britain faced starvation. The U-boat campaign threatened to choke the island nation into submission. Desperate, the Allies ramped up escort production. Every shipyard became a vital part of the anti-U-boat effort. Early ASW technology struggled. Radar and sonar were nascent, requiring constant refinement and better deployment strategies. Depth charges, though fearsome, were often inaccurate. Detecting and destroying a submerged U-boat remained incredibly challenging. Through unimaginable hardship, the merchant navy pressed on. Their courage was the backbone of Britain's lifeline. Allied commanders adapted their tactics. More escorts, improved coordination, and better convoy discipline were becoming crucial. Limited long-range aircraft began patrolling the fringes of the Atlantic Gap, offering the first glimmer of aerial protection. The concept of dedicated escort groups emerged. These hunter-killer teams would soon prove vital in combating wolfpacks. By late 1941, the first happy time began to wane. Allied defenses, though struggling, were slowly evolving. A brutal chapter closed, but the Battle of the Atlantic was far from over. The deadliest years still lay ahead. The war at sea was escalating, a brutal, unseen struggle beneath the waves. The Atlantic became a graveyard. German U-boats, emboldened and relentless, tightened their grip, threatening to sever the lifelines of the Allied war effort. The tonnage war was a grim calculus of destruction. For the Allies, it was a fight for sheer survival. Supplies dwindled, factories faltered, and the specter of starvation loomed. Britain's fate rested on the convoys. Each lost ship was a blow, a tangible loss of men, material, and hope. The numbers were terrifying. Then came Operation Drumbeat. A deadly new campaign brought the U-boat terror directly to America's doorstep. America's eastern seaboard, blissfully unaware, shone bright, a beacon for predator U-boats lurking offshore. This was the second happy time for Donitz's wolves. Unprotected targets were everywhere, easy prey. Tankers and cargo ships, sailing independently, became easy targets, their destruction a horrifying spectacle. America lacked proper coastal patrols, blackout regulations, or even a robust convoy system. They were exposed. The Atlantic seaboard, a vibrant artery of commerce, became a graveyard of steel and shattered dreams. The scale of loss was staggering. Every day, more ships vanished, and the U.S. Navy was overwhelmed. The war arrived on American beaches, a stark, oily reminder of the relentless enemy offshore. Isolation and fear became constant companions for sailors, praying their ship wouldn't be next. For a time, the German U-boats operated with impunity, their reign of terror seemingly unstoppable. But the U-boat success was also rooted in a formidable secret: the German 4-rotor Enigma. This advanced encryption plunged the Allies into an intelligence blackout, deaf and blind to U-boat movements. Bletchley Park, the heart of Allied code-breaking, struggled. The new Enigma was an insurmountable challenge. With their communications secure, U-boat packs received real-time intelligence, orchestrating devastating ambushes. The Germans held a crucial advantage, predicting convoy paths and concentrating their wolfpacks for maximum impact. Allied escorts, lacking vital intelligence, were often chasing ghosts, unable to find the unseen enemy. Every U-boat transmission became a ghost in the air, leaving no trail for Allied pursuit. The intelligence blackout was a suffocating blanket, hindering every defensive and offensive operation. Without knowledge of U-boat positions, Allied convoys were little more than moving targets for the enemy. The four-rotor Enigma cemented German dominance, threatening to strangle Allied supply lines completely. As the Atlantic raged, another front, even more brutal, opened in the unforgiving Arctic. Convoy PQ-17, bound for the Soviet Union, faced not only U-boats, but also the Arctic's fury. Then came the order: scatter. The escort vanished, leaving merchant ships utterly defenseless and exposed. It was a massacre. U-boats and German aircraft descended, destroying a staggering 2/3 of the convoy. PQ-17 became a symbol of Allied despair, a horrifying testament to the U-boat's relentless effectiveness. But in the shadows, a desperate technological race was underway. Driven by the urgency of survival, the Allies poured resources into new weapons, seeking a breakthrough that could turn the tide. One such innovation was centimetric radar, offering unprecedented precision in detecting unseen threats. This revolutionary radar could pierce the night and fog, giving escorts a vital advantage at last. It meant U-boats, once invisible, could now be located before they even had a chance to attack. Alongside radar came HUF-DUF, high-frequency direction finding, another game-changer in naval warfare. HUF-DUF could pinpoint the location of a U-boat's radio transmissions, even brief ones, with remarkable accuracy. This allowed escort ships to converge on U-boat positions, transforming the hunters into the hunted. These innovations, deployed with desperate speed, began to shift the balance of power at sea. By early 1943, the relentless technological arms race was nearing its climax. The tide was about to turn. The darkest hours were passing. A new era of decisive naval combat was dawning in the Atlantic. Spring 1943 dawned, a pivotal moment in the relentless, desperate battle of the Atlantic. Germany's U-boats, once dominant predators, continued their deadly hunt across vast, unforgiving seas. Allied convoys, laden with vital supplies, struggled, suffering immense losses under constant assault. But beneath the surface, a storm of Allied ingenuity was brewing, ready to turn the tide. A critical weakness plagued Allied defenses: the vast, unprotected mid-Atlantic air gap. Miles of ocean where U-boats roamed unchallenged, safe from air surveillance and attack. Then, VLR bombers arrived, extending air cover deep into the once impenetrable Atlantic expanse. Liberators and fortresses, with their formidable range, pushed U-boats deeper, disrupting wolfpack tactics. Their constant presence forced U-boats to dive, limiting their attack opportunities dramatically. Alongside, agile escort carriers joined convoys, bringing vital air power directly to the battle. Launching Swordfish and Wildcats, these floating airfields provided immediate, localized anti-submarine protection. The dreaded air gap was closing, denying U-boats their sanctuary, forcing them into the open. U-boat commanders now scanned the skies with mounting apprehension, their hunting grounds shrinking rapidly. Traditional depth charges often missed, requiring pinpoint accuracy, and sometimes sheer luck. Enter Hedgehog, a revolutionary ahead-throwing anti-submarine mortar, a true game-changer in naval warfare. Close up on its multiple spigots, loaded and ready to launch its devastating silent payload. A volley of Hedgehog projectiles arcs into the water, sinking silently towards the submerged target. No surface explosion revealed the attack, keeping the U-boat's position secret until impact. Only a catastrophic underwater tremor confirmed a direct hit, signaling absolute, undeniable destruction below. This new weapon dramatically increased kill rates, shattering U-boat morale and their confidence. Allied strategy evolved from defense to aggressive hunter-killer groups, actively seeking U-boats. Destroyers, frigates, and corvettes now prowled the Atlantic, determined to hunt down their prey. Coordinated air and surface attacks became the standard, a lethal ballet of destruction and precision. Aircraft spotted U-boats, instantly vectoring surface escorts to their unsuspecting, vulnerable targets. A destroyer races at full speed, sonar pinging, closing in on the unseen enemy below. The Atlantic became a deadly chessboard, with the hunters now relentlessly stalking the hunted. U-boats, once masters of the deep, were suddenly the prey, constantly pursued, constantly threatened. This relentless pressure broke wolfpack formations, sowing chaos, fear, and desperation among crews. Each successful hunt brought Allied victory closer, pushing the Axis further towards inevitable defeat. The convergence of these advantages erupted in the crucible of convoy ONS-5 in April. A massive convoy, desperately pushing eastward, became the target of a huge U-boat wolfpack. Days of brutal fighting ensued. The Atlantic a tempest of steel, fire, and human courage. Allied escorts fought valiantly, pushing back against overwhelming numbers, refusing to yield ground. VLR aircraft arrived, turning the tide decisively, devastating the attacking U-boats from above. U-boats were sunk one after another, unable to escape the combined, suffocating assault. The Battle of ONS-5 proved a decisive Allied victory, a pivotal turning point in the war. May 1943 arrived, a month forever etched in naval history as the infamous Black May. Donitz received grim reports, catastrophic U-boat losses, an unsustainable rate of attrition. His elite submarine force was decimated, their morale shattered, their strategic impact gone. Facing utter ruin, Grand Admiral Donitz ordered a full, humiliating withdrawal from the North Atlantic. The tide had turned. The lifeline to Britain was secured, ensuring freedom's ultimate, hard-won victory. After years of desperate struggle, the tide irrevocably turned. Allied dominance was now absolute, securing vital lifelines. The hunter became the hunted. U-boats, once kings of the deep, were now targets in a relentless pursuit. Aerial surveillance, combined with advanced radar, spotted the elusive predators from miles away. No escape. Escort carrier groups, lethal and omnipresent, patrolled the vital sea lanes, protecting every convoy. Germany desperately innovated. The Schnorkel allowed U-boats to recharge batteries while submerged, increasing their stealth. This snorkel offered a brief glimmer of hope, extending their submerged endurance. Yet it was a double-edged sword. The mast betrayed their position. Allied air patrols relentlessly hunted these telltale snort masts across the Atlantic. Another deadly innovation, the acoustic torpedo, designed to home in on the sound of a ship's propellers. These Zaunkönig, or Wren torpedoes, presented a terrifying new threat to Allied escort vessels. Ingenuity met innovation. The British Foxer created decoy noise, luring the acoustic torpedoes away. This clever countermeasure proved highly effective, neutralizing a significant portion of the acoustic threat. Despite these innovations, overwhelming Allied power and relentless pressure sealed the U-boat's ultimate fate. Superior numbers, technology, and tactics ensured their ultimate failure. The advantage was insurmountable. Allied technological superiority in radar, sonar, and code-breaking provided an undeniable, decisive edge. Unprecedented air-sea coordination delivered crushing blows, leaving few places for U-boats to hide. Absolute sea control was not just about survival. It was the bedrock of history's greatest invasion. D-Day. Millions of men, tons of equipment, and endless supplies flowed across the channel unimpeded for D-Day. Had the U-boats still reigned, D-Day would have been a catastrophic, impossible dream for the Allies. Allied naval power secured every convoy, every landing craft, ensuring the invasion's critical success. This mastery of the seas allowed the liberation of Europe to begin. A victory forged in the Atlantic. Too little, too late. The revolutionary Type 21 Electroboot, a true submarine, arrived on the scene. With unprecedented underwater speed and endurance, it was a terrifying glimpse into future naval warfare capabilities. Had it arrived earlier, the Type 21 could have drastically altered the Battle of the Atlantic's course. But by 1945, the war was lost. Only a handful of these advanced boats saw any significant action. The final act, Weary U-boat crews, their fight futile, emerged to surrender their formidable vessels. The Battle of the Atlantic's significance cannot be overstated. It was truly a global struggle for survival. Victory in Europe hinged on Allied control of the vital sea lanes. It directly enabled the war's end. This hard-won sea control shaped the post-war world, ushering in a new era of global power. The legacy of the Atlantic War endures, a testament to courage, innovation, and the absolute necessity of sea power. The Battle of the Atlantic, often overlooked, forged an enduring legacy of human resolve against overwhelming odds. It was a crucible of spirit, where ordinary men displayed extraordinary courage in the face of constant danger. Heroism became a daily necessity. Countless acts of bravery secured vital convoys against relentless U-boat attacks. Strategic wit, technological innovation, and relentless adaptation slowly turned the tide in this brutal underwater war. The Allied victory in the Atlantic was a triumph of perseverance, preventing Britain's starvation and isolation. For Britain, survival hinged on these sea lanes. Without them, the island nation would have surely fallen. This struggle directly fueled the wider war effort, allowing Allied forces to launch pivotal offensives elsewhere. The Battle of the Atlantic stands as a testament to the indomitable human spirit in the darkest hours. Explore more epic military history with us. Subscribe, like, and share to dive deeper into these forgotten conflicts.